Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Judge Jeanine Pirro, Jessica Tarlov, Dana Perino, and Brian Kilmeade. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Don't be fooled by the media's rewrite of Kamala's record. The Veep is as radical as ever, and she just proved it. Harris co-sponsoring Biden's proposal today for a complete overhaul of the Supreme Court, which includes establishing term limits, an ethics code for justices, and a brand new constitutional amendment to prohibit presidential immunity. President Biden to speak at any moment now, and here's what he had to say earlier. Watch.
Speaker Johnson says your Supreme Court reform is dead on arrival. What's your reaction, sir?
Who said that?
Speaker Johnson said it's dead on arrival.
Yes, he is.
That he is?
Dead on arrival.
How are you going to get this How are you going to get this done?
That's not everything I've ever passed yesterday.
The VP giving the plan her stamp of approval, saying this: these popular reforms will help to restore confidence in the court, strengthen our democracy, and ensure no one is above the law. Democrat voters may think they're signing on for a mainstream moderate in Kamala Harris, but Donald Trump is warning that's not the case.
If Kamala Harris gets in, she will be the most extreme radical liberal president in American history.
Kamala Harris's deadly destruction of America's borders is completely and totally disqualifying for her to be president. You can have a person like this as president.
I sent in the National Guard to save Minneapolis while Kamala Harris sided with the arsonist and rioter and raised money to bail out the criminals, bail them all out of jail.
All right, Judge Jeanine, we're going to take the president when he is ready, finally. He's already about 40 minutes late. The late Joe Biden. Judge Jeanine, if I were Kamala Harris and Joe Biden tried to do something, I wouldn't jump to it at all. I'd say, whoa, wait a second. We're going to have to take a minute before we just sign on to anything that guy wants.
Okay. First, let me take a line from Harold. It's good to be back at the table.
Good to have you back.
Yeah. And, okay, look, I agree with you, and I'll tell you why. She's trying to promote herself as a moderate and let Joe Biden do all the hard work with the progressive nonsense. And she just will let, the party leaders know that she's in with it. But for the term or duration of this campaign, she doesn't need to go out there and do it. But I got to tell you, the whole idea of Joe Biden and his team wanting to change an institution of our government, the United States Supreme Court, which is embedded in the Constitution, and because they don't like a decision that they made. Notice they didn't do it right away. I mean, they waited. They got the Dobbs decision, and then they got the presidential immunity decision, and they were like, we're going to do this. They didn't do it, when they had all three houses. But I think the sad part about this is that they say, number one, we want term limits. Okay, why don't you impose term limits on yourselves? Why don't you in Congress decide that 2 terms is enough for all of you? Because all you do is make money and make sure that people in your family are able to make money based on inside information. That's number one. A code of conduct is number 2. Who is Congress to impose a code of Congress on the Supreme Court of the United States? And who the heck is going to enforce it? They are a co-equal branch of government. They are an independent branch of government, and Congress has no right to impose any kind of ethics requirement. And by the way, as long as they are in good stature, they stay there. And number 3, this whole thing, no one is above the law. They think they're above the law, Joe Biden and the left, by changing the Supreme Court. For 200 years, presidents have been upset with the Supreme Court, but nobody said, let's do something. Let's get 3/4 of the state legislatures, 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, and let's try to change everything about the Constitution. And, the immunity nonsense, they're stupid. They didn't read the decision. It is not absolute immunity. It is absolute in some case, partial in other cases. Official act has to be determined by the lower court to determine whether or not any immunity applies. So you know what? You people are so full of it, you want people to believe that, the American people will have confidence. No. No, that's not what this is about. They're upset about the Chevron ruling. They're upset about the fact that the EPA regulators are not now in a position to decide what businesses should do as a result of Chevron. And, you know, over the past 2 centuries, I mean, everything has been considered and none of this has been proposed. And by the way, let me just say one last thing before Joe Biden comes on. And that is, I went to Portugal last Friday night after I did the show, okay? And she was the border czar. I come back, all of a sudden, Kamala Harris is not the border czar. Did somebody have a lobotomy? I mean, what? They gaslight us all the time. But when the president of the United States, Joe Biden, calls her the border czar, there are thousands of articles, she's the border czar, and the Democrats come out and they tell you she wasn't the border czar. Folks, they're not just gaslighting you, they're lying to you.
I just can't wait to hear more about the Portugal trip. I think we're not even going to have a decision whether we're going to hear about it. We're going to be hearing about it for quite some time. Jessica Tarlov, why now? Why Supreme Court? You want to run against Clarence Thomas?
Sure. Actually,
right, not Trump.
No, happy to run against Trump for sure, and happy to run against Clarence Thomas, or at least his unethical behavior, which is really what this is about. Now, this is not going to get passed. It has to go through Congress. It's dead on arrival, as our reporter said.
Right.
But the point is to, A, make this an election issue, and it's something that Democrats feel very confident that we can do effectively for our side, and B, for the Biden-Harris administration to be responsive to the American public. That's something that they've been doing all along, and I understand that people can have opposition to it, but they have been paying attention to where national sentiment is on these issues.
Really?
Yeah, really. So 67% of Americans want term limits on the Supreme Court. That's an AP poll from last summer. In terms of an ethics code, 75% of Americans would like that. When ProPublica put out those pieces showing how much Clarence Thomas has taken in gifts, in travel, that he had to amend his financial disclosures because of everything that he took from Harlan Crow, that raises big red flags. And then you have on the other side...
So that raises red flags, but millions from China to the Bidens raised none for you?
Are you kidding? This is... I love that we're already back to misdirection. I missed you while you were sick as well, and I didn't have anyone doing that to me last week. Clarence Thomas and Joe Biden are obviously different entities, part of different branches of government, and Joe Biden didn't take millions from China. And we haven't heard anything, by the way, about the Hunter Biden impeachment. Right? That's just over now. James Comer's given up on.
He's sentenced to prison. That's all.
Okay. Sorry, I said Hunter. He's not being impeached.
No, he said
Joe
September.
Biden okay. The immunity clause issue. A majority of Americans agree that they do not want immunity from criminal prosecution for actions taken as president. These are popular reforms. Like I said, they are not going to get passed. But it doesn't mean that they're...
Gosh.
Jessica, it's so funny that you're acting like people have been clamoring for Supreme Court reform. They're clamoring for more money in their paychecks. They're clamoring for a secure border. This, I haven't heard anybody talk about this.
No, I mean, it's so transparent. She said, and it's an election issue. It's not one of principle. They didn't care when Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Stephen Breyer took way more donor-funded trips. Nobody gave a crap. Because they were like, okay, well, they're taking the trips and they've got the co-equal branch of government. And on the issue that is popular, well, Medicare for all was super popular, too. It was like 88%. You ask the next question, like, oh, wait, actually, no, we don't. We're not for that. So I'm not buying that either. What I am buying is this. There is a ton of left-wing dark money on this issue, and it's been going on for several years. Just look at the Kavanaugh hearings. Look, I was a spokesperson for John Roberts and Alito when they were going through their confirmation hearings. And it really wasn't it started sort of like right after that. And they're like, wow, we have to do something. And now that group, those dark money groups, want a return on their investment. So what do? They wait until Joe Biden says, I'm going to cure cancer and fix the Supreme Court in 6 months. So here's my idea. He has this op-ed in the Washington Post that obviously somebody else wrote for him. And there's just no way that if those decisions had gone the way that they wanted, that they would be doing this. There's no way that they would be calling for filibuster reform if the Republicans win back the Senate. Do you think that all these Democrats are going to say, yeah, we definitely still want filibuster reform? They absolutely will not. So I get a little bit irritated with this because it's decisions like this to do something very political that then everybody on the right has to say, well, actually, here's the rules. Here's the Constitution. Here's this thing. Even though you could have something that's 80% popular, when you ask the next question, like, oh, actually, no, we're not going to do that. And he's not going to do it in 6 months. What they want is a campaign issue, and the media will give it to them.
Brian Kilmeade.
First off, I'm surprised Joe Biden has not interrupted me. I'm thrilled because you were willing to give it right to him. He would accept your toss. For that, I'm happy. Seriously, this has been a wonderful conversation. I didn't need to come to the A block.
Yes, you
But I'm going to try to add something. If this doesn't have a chance of passing, we all agree with that, right? But you know what it's going to do? It's going to make people look at the Supreme Court as a political entity, and it's going to even lower the validity for the average American to go, yeah, that Supreme Court. Yeah. All I keep hearing, especially if you're a Republican, you're fine with it, obviously. But for the average American, the independent one that's not really zoned into what we do every day, they're going to go, yeah, the Supreme Court's really corrupt, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why is it? Well, you know, these people have no faith in it. More and more polls show they have less and less faith. And these guys are going to sit there and get more and more guards around their home, and they're going to feel less and less secure doing what they're doing. And it turns out, up until 1970, the average years in which they serve was about 17 years. What has happened since 1970? We started taking vitamins, jogging, wearing a little bit longer shorts, and we started taking better care of ourselves. So we're living longer. That's the only thing that's changed. I'm sorry, America. We're living longer, and the guys and women that wear the robes are also living longer. It doesn't mean America's lost its way, and the Constitution needs some whiteout. So I think we leave things as they are, and I think that the next, just run on this. There's going to be a seat open. Clarence Thomas, Sotomayor is not the healthiest person. Clarence Thomas has been there 33 years. Run on, elect me, and I'll fill that seat with someone like me, and see when maybe the best person wins.
Donald Trump ran on that.
And he won.
And he won. And he got the right to appoint
Although
three
everyone said
justices.
he didn't win legitimately.
He got the right to appoint 3 justices. So I'm tired of hearing what the American people want. The American people, when they vote for a president, know that that president is going to appoint a justice similarly of political views.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.